I'm going to fire this one off into the universe here. Notre Dame is still going to make the playoff this year.
Oh, you're not giving you. Okay, before I let you go on, how much of this is just one? Is you are a little hurt that we got popped onto freezing cold takes after they lost to NIU, and you want to double down and have a moment where we can say, "See, freezing cold takes, we weren't wrong."
If Notre Dame runs the table and makes the playoff, do we freezing cold takes? Or were we just permanently wrong because we said undefeated? Because, like, we're wrong.
We were wrong, but yes, I do think, and we've had him on the old show. I think I can text him. I think we'd agree that we can freezing cold takes.
Because freezing cold takes has to only post once something is final. Because if you post somebody's freezing cold take that is still in process, as we know when you make takes, that you could be wrong. And listen, I am very aware that Notre Dame could lose another game.
Junior or Tobias Merriweather leaving, those are fewer and farther between than the guys who stay together.
You could lose.
That's Tyler Horka from blueandgold.com right there. He just popped in there.
Okay. I don't know what I was hearing.
You want me to take you behind the curtain and tell you what happened?
Yes.
So somebody grabbed a video from our friends at blueandgold.com, which is the On3 Notre Dame site, which is wonderful. And it was some B-roll of Notre Dame Stadium. And if we have sound in the video, the sound automatically plays. If we take the sound out of the video, then we can talk over the video. So there's your tech wizardry behind that.
I thought I was having a stroke for a second.
But that was the voice of Tyler Horka, who's the crack ace beat writer at blueandgold.com, who's been on this show many, many times. So
I'm going to attempt it again. What I was going to say.
Go for it.
If you lose to NIU, you can lose to anybody, right? Like, we're not in a position where, like, you think that Notre Dame is invincible going into the rest of the season. That said, the Notre Dame that we saw against Purdue, the one that scored like 50 points before halftime, is more in line with the Notre Dame that I thought we were going to get this year. Now, I don't know how much better or worse NIU is than Purdue, but I'm for damn certain know that if Notre Dame would have come out with that type of mentality, that type of aggressiveness against NIU, they wouldn't have lost the game. So I'm thinking to myself, although it's a very terrible lesson to have to learn in real time, and Marcus Freeman has learned it now 3 times in his short coaching tenure, that if Notre Dame can attack the rest of their schedule with the same type of mentality that they did against Purdue when they play Miami, Ohio, and Stanford, and Georgia Tech, and all the other teams that they have on there, there are only 2 games remaining on their schedule where they may not be a favorite. So in this new world, and this take is impartial because I think people need to re-examine the playoff. Because, Andy, the thing that I thought was interesting is that I would post Bubble Watch on Sunday, and I would have Notre Dame as first 4 out, and people lost their minds. But I don't think people realize that first 4 out means that you could be number 16 in the country. Like, that isn't, like, the threshold of being on the bubble in this system is not the same thing as it was last year. And I know that sounds stupid that I have to explain that, but if you go look at last year's top 20 rankings, the last top 20 before the playoff revealed, every team outside of the top 12 had 3 losses. So if Notre Dame loses twice, they probably won't make the playoff with one of those teams being NIU and they not having a real quality win that we think. They still are certainly well within striking distance of this playoff. And I think people need to realize that in theory, they could lose twice this year and still make it.
In theory, they could. Now, it depends on how good this schedule is viewed. And I still don't think it's going to be viewed as a great schedule because, like,
it's not.
We think USC is going to be considered a better opponent. We think Texas A&M will probably be considered a pretty good opponent, but they lost that game. And then I'm sorry, they won that game. What am I? Florida lost that game to Texas. I had the Florida Texas A&M game on the brain, but. So they won the Texas A&M game. That is potentially helpful. We thought the Florida State game would be one of those that's really tough. Probably not going to be. But here's where I disagree with you. I just don't think they're going to run the table. I think there's a couple places that can be tripped up. I think there's really three places they can be tripped up. They can be tripped up by Louisville.
Well, any place after the NIU game, but yeah.
Well, exactly. And like you said, yeah, if they could lose NIU, they lose anybody. But I think they're going to be on guard from this point forward. I don't think they're going to lay an egg like that. But I do think there are three teams on the schedule that can just straight up beat them. And that would be Louisville, Georgia Tech, and USC. So the idea of them getting through all of those without another slip up, I just don't know if that's going to happen. Now, the Notre Dame team we saw against Purdue on Saturday, I think can certainly pull this off. But we've yet to see them be able to be that consistent throughout a season. That's
on record here, though, and say I did not say that Notre Dame will run the table. I said they will make the playoff. And let me ask you this.
They have to run the table to make the playoff. They aren't making it at 9-3.
Hey,
so
they've only lost one.
Probably not. They're probably not making it at 10-2. I can tell you that, right?
Can I make a fake scenario here? Can you just indulge me?
I'm indulging.
Notre Dame beats Miami, Ohio, and Louisville and Stanford. Loses to Georgia Tech, which is their second slip up. Then they run the table from there and beat Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and a really good USC team on the road at the end of the year and finish 10-2. You don't think that's a team that might be at the 10 or 11 seed?
No, I don't, because I think other 10-2 teams will be ranked ahead of them because of the poor losses that they
But what if USC at the end of the year is a really good team? Like we're talking like a top 7 team and they win that game. And then you have the A&M win. Hope. Like I think that like it I don't think they'll make the playoff right now if they go 10-2.
If you have not tried Huel yet, it is the world's #1 complete nutrition meal in a bottle right here. These things are incredible. So if you're like, I count my calories and a lot of people count macros as well. So whether you're doing a straight calorie count or a macro count, like Huel is awesome because you know exactly what you're getting. 35 grams of protein per bottle. It's 400 calories a bottle. It's a complete meal in a bottle. Fills you up. They've got chocolate. They've got vanilla. This is the Black Edition complete meal. These things are awesome. Basically, if you're trying to figure out breakfast, if you're trying to figure out lunch, if you're a busy person and you just don't want to deal with having to cook, having to make food, trying to figure out what is in this, how many calories are in this, how many grams of protein are in this, how many grams of fat are in this, how many grams of sugar are in this. It's all there for you on the back of the bottle. So go to Huel.com. That's Huel.com. Use the code STAPLES and get 15% off. I'm telling you right now, it is awesome because when I am trying to figure out what can I eat, how can I handle this, I got to go. I'm busy. I grab a bottle of Huel. I drink it. One meal is taken care of, and I know exactly what I'm putting in my body the whole time. It's tremendous. So, Ari, when you're training for that race, just grab some Huel. All right,
I don't think that losing another game eliminates them yet.
Let me give you this scenario. This is the one I think could work for you. What you said, they lose to either Louisville or Georgia Tech, and they have one more loss.
No, they need the Louisville win. They need the Louisville win, I think.
They need, okay. So we're giving them Louisville. We're saying they fall to Georgia Tech. Okay. So let's say that happens. So Notre Dame enters the USC game at 9-2. Let's say USC enters that game at 10-1.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
which puts them at 7 or 8 probably in the polls,
and also probably puts them in the Big Ten championship game.
Yes.
Right. This is the other piece of that. So if they were to beat a USC team that is 10-1 and playing in the Big Ten championship game, then yes, I think that probably would put Notre Dame in the playoff because they would if USC winds up 10-3, like they lose to Notre Dame and then lose the Big Ten championship game, then they would probably still have a chance to make the playoff, but the committee would put Notre Dame ahead of them because they would have the same record essentially, and Notre Dame would have the head-to-head win.
All I'm trying to, and I think that this take was successful, Andy, because I'm trying it as a thought exercise too, of like, if you're a college football fan, being a playoff team does not mean the same thing that it used to. I just want people to realize that a team does not have to be elite to make the playoff now. And like, I don't think it's insane. This might be the hottest take I have today. I do not think it is insane that they will make it. Now, I have to say one last thing about Notre Dame that scares me a little bit. They did lose Ashton Craig, their center for the year, and that's now
Mhm.
2 of their best linemen that they've lost for the year. And I think there's a third that's out for a few weeks. Like their offensive line took a pretty big hit from what we thought it was going to be when we made the undefeated prediction. And I think that obviously when you have offensive line issues, that opens the door to losing games you shouldn't. I want to make it very clear that I'm aware of that. I'm scared by it, and I'm not 100% certain I'm going to be right. But I do think that there is a very clear and identifiable path, whether that means running the table or a few other things falling in their direction, for them to still make it to the playoff. When you consider last year, every single team that was outside of the top 12 had 3 or more losses.
River says we need to make a bet on this, and I tend to agree with him. Like, and it actually could wind up being a hedge to my USC bet, to our USC bet, because if Notre Dame were to beat USC, it might potentially knock them out of the playoff, and then I would win that bet. But if Notre Dame beat USC and put themselves in the playoff, you would win that bet, because I don't think they're going to make the playoff. I think they're going to drop 1 or 2 more, and even the 1 more getting dropped probably does the trick. But I do understand your scenario there. So what do we think that we want the stakes for that bet to be?
Well, I think hedging is for wusses.
Okay, well,
it
doesn't have to be hedging. It's not hedging. You think Notre Dame's going to make the playoff. I think they won't. So how do we handle this?
Wow. So just so I understand how like warfare is going to be between you and me this year, you're going to take one of my hottest takes from the Hottest Take Saucy Take show that is designed to be flaming hot, and now you're going to bind me to it in a bet. Is that how you're going to play me?
If you don't believe it,
no, I believe it.
Make that bet.
I believe it. I would never say anything on the show ever that I don't believe. But also, too, it is one of those things where it's like, you might believe it in other circumstances, but you might not want to say it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying
it. You don't have to make the stakes as extreme as $1,000. We can make the stakes considerably lower.
Well, we'll have to let the listeners help us decide that one, but I'll bind myself to it.
Yeah, we'll make it a nice, funny, low stakes bet. Like, not even a death chip. But let's make it funny.
Not even a death chip? I would much rather pay you $1,000 and eat that thing again.
Well, we'll come up with something.
The worst night of my life, Andy. I don't think you appreciate that.
Scott in the chat says, no red solo cups, please. Yeah. Did you notice there's a couple people getting after me on the internet? Because
I did.
They don't think we should talk about the guy who said he'd eat poop out of the red solo cup. Like, I mean, the anonymous guy on the internet who has since deleted his internet accounts. Like, we're bullying him with stuff he can't even see anymore because he's not on the internet anymore. But we're bullying him because he was dumb enough to post that he would eat dog poop out of a red solo cup.
I promise you one thing. He definitely sees it, because there's no way he doesn't have a burner or a new account with another name.
His account was a burner.
I do think that it's just very funny. Like, I feel like if he had another bet of like, I'll run 27 miles if they do this, and I've never run a mile, like, we wouldn't be talking about it still. Yeah. It's the theater of the solo cup dog poop thing that makes it so funny.